Hey, Candid Land, it's your girl, Miss Krystal, and I want to welcome you to what looks like now more polished version of Candid Conversations. Y'all, I can't believe I am back. And ironically, it took me having that couch conversation. Well, first it was a truck conversation, then it was the couch conversation with my husband about relationships that ignited something in y'all and in me saying, hey, y'all, it's time for me to come back. Let's get into the conversation of we're sharing the story of a Louisville family searching for answers after a frightening experience abroad. A young woman traveling with her friends in Mexico City, she suddenly becomes very ill, and she was taken to a hospital where she was later placed on life support. The good news is that you and your daughter, you are back home, but the road to getting her home was anything but simple, and this is where the story begins. So let's start off with your daughter. Tell us a little bit about your daughter, her name, her age, and what brought her to Mexico City.
My daughter is amazing. She really is. She's 26 years old. Her name is Divine, and I think she is so aptly named. She goes on these excursions with her friends where they'll go
Hmm.
to like different festivals and just have a ball. When she was here in January, she went to the one in Tennessee, had a great time. So when she told me she was going to Mexico City, this was really her first time out of the country without either myself or going on a mission trip with our church. I was a little leery, but I said, she's got this. Well, 2 weeks before she left, I contacted my teacher group and I said, hey, can y'all please pray for my daughter? I said, because, she's going out of the country and I'm a little concerned. Well, the lady that I teach with who teaches Spanish, she was like, oh, I'm from Mexico City. If you need anything, she needs anything, you just let me know. So I said, okay, thank you. Never thought I would have to need her.
And turns out you were so glad that you had that connection. And so you
Yeah.
said this was her first time going away on a girls' trip with her friends. And
Mhm.
something you talked about was how you learned how to cook because your daughter had food allergies. And also, your daughter has asthma, correct?
Yes.
So, talk
Yes.
about what happened and how she ended up getting sick while they're on vacation.
Okay. So Sunday, the Sunday in question, we got a phone call, a text message from her that said, don't worry. Whenever your child sends you something that says, don't worry,
You start to
oh,
worry.
time to work. Yeah.
Cue the
She says,
worry.
I'm in the hospital, but I'm okay. They have me on oxygen. And so really that was the last conversation that I had with her. She says she's fine, but she's just on oxygen. It was
Hmm.
something that we were both familiar with. Well, what I did not know was that they sent her home. And when they sent her home with medication. It was literally an antibiotic and an inhaler.
Hmm.
And I know when she gets like this, she needs to be on oxygen for quite a bit of time.
Wow.
I figured, okay, she hasn't text messaged me back. She should be fine. Next day, which is Monday, I'm standing in Kroger because I'm getting my food together so that we can do our meal prep for the evening. And I look at my phone and I see her calling. At least I thought it was her calling. So her name pop up. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? And then there was a man on the phone. And I'm like, who is this man?
Right. With my daughter's phone. Right.
Well, it was one of her friends. They were
Yeah.
all down there for the festival. And he said, hey, she's not doing well. What should we do? You
Hmm.
call 911. That's what you do. Don't call me. You call 911.
Yeah.
You call me later. Well, they called 911. But the thing is, in Mexico, now before I say this, I want to say Mexico City is a beautiful place, an absolutely beautiful place.
Have you been to Mexico City before? Oh,
Not
well,
before
I
this one.
mean, before this
No.
situation.
I've been
Okay.
to other places in Mexico, Baja California, Mazatlan, but I
Yeah.
haven't been to Mexico City. But the people are absolutely beautiful. But what I know about Mexico from the time when I went there with my husband is that when you call an ambulance, you need to have some money because they're not going to take you if you don't have money. And I'm thankful that I knew this information because when he said he needed $600, I was like, okay, I understand,
Oh
right?
my goodness. So,
Because the
okay, let's
average
let's back up.
person,
So
yeah,
you get a phone call from your daughter's phone. You think it's your daughter. Find out that it is her friend, and he says things
mhm,
aren't going well, and you're like, take her to the hospital or call
yes.
911.
Mhm.
Fee for her to even think about before she can even think about getting treatment. You said, and how much was it?
600.
600.
600. Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
So they get her to the hospital, and the friend calls me back and he's like, "Well, we're here, but they took her right back." Of course, I'm like, "Okay, what do I need to do? Can I talk to the doctor? What can I do?" Well, at this point, I contacted my friend and I'm telling her what's happening. And she says to me, "Do you want somebody to put eyes on her?" Yes, absolutely. So her friend comes. The blessing is he was bilingual. So he was able to speak with the doctors. He was able to speak with me and let me know what was going on. Well, they had to intubate her. So they had to put the tracheal tube down her, down her throat and put her on a respirator because she was not breathing well on her own.
Mm.
Apparently, her left lung had collapsed and only half of the right one was working. That's scary.
My goodness.
Yeah, that's
And it
scary.
seems as if everything just began to escalate really quickly. Something you did let me know, though, you talked about the elevation, which was really
Yes.
what triggered everything. Could you kind of share that? And then what hospital was it in Mexico
Yeah.
City that this happened
Yes.
at?
So, the the hospital, the elevation it was pretty high. So Mexico City is a high elevation city. And she had never been to a high elevation like that before. So coupled with the pneumonia, which is what she had, the pneumonia, the high elevation, and the asthma was just a recipe for disaster.
Oh,
So when they took her to the hospital, they took her to, I'm trying to remember the name of the hospital. It was Med Centro Medico. I think that was the name of the hospital. But when we got there, okay, I'll back up. So I called my friend and she says, "So when are you leaving?" And when you have that much on your mind, you're like, "I don't know even what to do." I'm like frozen. She says, "Do you want me to go with you?"
mm,
Now, this woman and I didn't know each other like that. We taught at the same school for years, but we didn't know each other like that. So that's how I knew God was in all of this
come on.
because she teaches at two schools, and she was willing to get her classes covered so that she could be with me for however long it
Wow.
took to be with me.
Wow.
So 9:15 in the morning on Tuesday, we're on a plane to Mexico City.
Oh,
We get there, we have to get her luggage from the hotel. We get her luggage from the hotel, and then we go to hotel to drop it off because we're in a Uber, tiny
hmm,
little Uber, and then we go to the hotel. I mean, I'm sorry, the hospital. When we get to the hospital, of course, I wanna immediately see my daughter, but
right.
can't do that because we have to settle some things first, right? The financials. Who's going to be in charge of the payment? Even though before I left, I already sent them payments, right? Because again, they're not gonna do too much without the payments. We were we were in that admissions office for 5 hours.
Before you had an opportunity to see your daughter?
5 hours, 5
How long did
hours.
it take you to travel?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember. We got there maybe around 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
So what I'm saying is that you're spending the day traveling and thinking that as soon as you hit that hospital in Mexico City, you're going to get an opportunity to be at your daughter's bedside because you said by then they had to intubate her. So
Mhm.
this was when were you told that she had been placed on life support?
The Monday night.
That Monday
That
night.
Monday night. Mhm. Yeah.
Phew. And you were held up in an office for 5 hours discussing payment? What?
Discussing who was going to be the guarantor of payment. Now, I had no problem signing the piece of paper they wanted me to sign,
Mhm.
but it was in Spanish. I don't read Spanish. Okay. So I said, I just wanted 24 hours. I wasn't even asking for 24 hours. I was like, can I get 12 hours just so
Right.
that I can take it to the embassy so that they can look over it and I can make sure that what is on this paper, I understand it and I'm okay with signing it.
Absolutely, and so your, colleague that joined you, was she able to look at the contract or they wouldn't allow her in the space?
No, she could look at the contract, but the difference between my colleague and I is that I'm a medical person,
Yeah.
right? In the military, I was a lab tech, so I understand how that works. My colleague, she's not a medical interpreter.
Mhm.
So what she's interpreting may not necessarily be what it's implying, right?
Right. Right.
So I said, I just wanted that time. And they told me no, that I couldn't take the paper to the embassy. No, I couldn't have that time. And then the person that I was speaking to, I'm not going to reveal names, but the person that I was speaking to, she took my daughter's passport and my ID.
Oh my
So
excuse
then
what?
I said, "Can I have my stuff back?" And she's like, "Well, you need to sign the paper." No, I know my rights. Well, we gave you a discount. If you don't sign the paper, then you don't get the discount. The discount was $200 a day. $200 a day off of $6,000.
And $6,000 is basically what they were going to start charging you every single day until she was discharged?
Well, they had already started charging that.
Started charge.
So, yeah, so when they gave us the discount, it was gonna be $5,800 a day. But we were able to get it down to, I think it was like $5,100 or something like that, right? But the problem still stood that I don't have money like that to just give every day. I don't know if you know
Period,
what I'm saying? I
right.
I just didn't, especially after we were working on a grand opening here at my
You had
studio.
just
So all
invested
my
a lot of yeah, you just invested a lot of money in your new business. And so by
Mhm.
that moment, what had the price tag come up to? How many days had she been in the hospital by then?
Oh, let's see, she was there Monday and Tuesday, so it was already up. Well, and I had paid, I think I paid close to maybe $4,000 at that point before I got there.
Not to mention the ambulance, the ride to the hospital. That was what,
Right.
$600?
Right.
So things started escalating quickly. And when
Mhm.
did you decide to get the US Embassy involved? And then talk about how, again, another divine connection, God allowed you to
Mhm.
be able to have access
Mhm.
to the embassy and, help from home.
Yes. So we got to the embassy because, again, they wanted me to sign this paper that I didn't want to sign. I had already taken screenshots of the paper, so I was able to, converse that way. But I had to contact our Chamber of Commerce back here. It was the Hardin County Chamber of Commerce. And I have some amazing people that are there. And even our county clerk got involved. And he said, okay, well, we're going to get the congressman involved. So we got Congressman Guthrie's team involved. And then I had my lawyer involved. And it was just, it went to a point that it didn't necessarily need to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think we kind of, or I glossed over it, but you are former military. And so you kind of knew how to handle yourself in a different country. And so that's how you knew, okay, I need to find contact, locate the US Embassy and I need to try to get these people involved. And so I could only imagine someone
Yes.
without your background and experience, they
Mhm.
would just be like a duck out of water, like trying to figure things out.
And even just having the network,
Yes.
if you don't have people that are behind you that can guide you and show you. When we went to the embassy, because it was a private hospital, the embassy really couldn't do too much. And the gentleman at the embassy, he said, I'm going to be real with you. If you try to move her, and she was to a point we couldn't even move her from one room to the next, let alone to another hospital. But he said, if you're going to try to move her to another hospital, she's not going to get the care that you want her to get, mainly because she's not Mexican.
Whoa. She said, did you all just hear what this mother just said? So she travels to Mexico City to be with her daughter, who by then was on life support, was not able to be at her bedside, was held up for 5 hours discussing payment, $6,000 a day, and then told on top of that price tag, she still isn't going to get the best care because she's not Mexican.
Hmm.
What did you say to that? And who where was your mind at by then? It just seems like everything is being thrown at you at once.
Hmm. Well, in my mind, I said, okay, God,
Come
it's
on.
you it's you and I now.
Come
All
on.
right,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
But I said, this time we're going to bring my daughter home.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of death in our family, but I said,
Yes.
this time, Lord, we're going to bring this one home. So after we dealt with the embassy, we went back to the hospital. And, granted, we at this point were able to talk with the head honcho of the admissions, and she was wonderful.
Yeah.
She was truly wonderful to us. We were able to get all of our stuff back, passports, military ID,
Because
all
they
that stuff.
took that as collateral, basically. Like you're not going to
Well,
be.
well, here's the deal, right? I think, sometimes when you have establishments and people are kind of like lone rangers and they do things of their own accord, even though they're not supposed to be doing them.
Hmm.
So when this particular lady took our IDs, she whispered to her friend who was at the receptionist desk next to her, and the receptionist flipped me the bird. She flipped me the bird, and I was like, I may not understand
Girl,
certain phrases in Spanish, but I understand that because it is universe.
yeah, isn't that ironic? Nothing else made sense, but everybody knows what that meant. Okay.
Yes,
Oh
yes.
my
So
goodness.
at that point, my friend, she said, "That's it." Now she didn't see that part of it. When I shared that with her, she was like, "I just want to talk to whoever's in charge." And she did, and that woman was amazing. She made sure that my daughter was taken care of each and every day.
Yeah.
We were able to, take it down to the bare minimum of $5,000 a day, but that was still not including the meds. That wasn't including any tests. That was so some
My
days, we were
goodness.
paying like $7,400. Like it was crazy. Yeah.
I don't know about you all, but my head is absolutely spinning right about now. If you're just joining us, we're here with Miss Sakinah, who is sharing with us about a story of her daughter, Divine. Her and her friends went to Mexico City for a festival, like we've all done before. We've all gotten with friends and went on a vacay, and it ended up being a nightmare. Her daughter ends up getting pneumonia, collapsed lung, and then has to be at the mercy of treatment there in Mexico City and was being charged a whopping $6,000 a day, held up in a room when she first arrived at the hospital to see about her daughter, wasn't allowed to see her until they got that money thing handled. But I'm still wondering what all took place for 5 hours. That's a long time. What all happened for five
It was
hours?
Yeah, it was the going back and forth of me signing this paper. And I said, all I want is 12 hours. You cannot have 12 hours. I said, well, I'm not signing this paper. So we're going to have to talk to whoever we need to talk to, but I'm not signing this paper
So they were
as
waiting you out a bit. Is
they
that what
were.
that was
They
about?
were. And I even said, hey, I don't even mind signing this paper if there's a contingency that says if there's something in here that the embassy does not agree with, that it's null and void, because essentially what the paper was saying was that they can go after my assets if I don't pay them. So that meant my house, my business, like anything that I had, they could go after it.
Goodness. My goodness. And so that's what was told to you, that if you do not pay, they will come back by any means necessary to make sure that bill was covered. And so what type of help were you getting back at home, though? I know that you've got a strong support system, and I understand you said you were
Yes.
talking to some people, but shout out a couple of people that were really
Yes.
working boots on the ground for you there in
Mhm.
Radcliffe.
So the Chamber of Commerce, we're talking the secretary, Brenda Thompson,
Mhm.
Melanie Parker, vice president, Kendra Scott, the president. I mean, the moment I said something to them, it was like whoosh.
Yeah.
Gwendolyn is whoosh. Gwendolyn Bashir, she's fierce. So they got a hold of just the things that needed to be done.
Yeah.
Melanie said, "Well, we need to start you a GoFundMe." I'm like, Melanie, I don't want to put people out. Like that's my thought process. I don't want to put people out, but I
But
said,
what
right
what
now,
was what was your total by then? By the end,
oh,
nearing the end of the trip? Drum roll,
but
please. What was the
okay,
total?
so the end of the trip, it was $58,000. That's how much we shelled out, $58,000,
My goodness. My
and that was over the
goodness.
course of a week, a little over a week.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I had to know that total. But again, shout out your people, a whole army of people that was there
Yeah.
for you
And I
and your
have to also give
family.
a shout out to the county clerk, Brian D. Smith. He's running again, y'all. He's amazing.
I
But
know that's
Brian D.
right.
Smith, yeah, he took my son. I mean, my son was still here,
Oh my goodness.
so they were able to take him to and from school, check on him. Like they were absolutely amazing. And I have to give a shout out to my church as well, New Life Church in Louisville. The pastors there were just on it. We could not have gotten back home if it weren't for them, because the money that was donated, we couldn't touch that money for 5 days, 5 business days. And
So
like I said, the money was accruing every day.
a GoFundMe was created and you were able to raise money, but you weren't able to touch the money. So how were you able to cover that bill? Because you remember, I remember them saying that you cannot leave
No.
without making sure that that bill was covered. So how did you do it?
So my brother, they had to dip deep into some savings in order
Yeah.
for just to help us get current. But of course, that was money that they needed as well. But they said, okay, the money that we need to pay what we have to pay off or our niece's life, right? Like we shouldn't have to make decisions like that, right? So they were able to do that, but he was like, "But I need my money back."
I know that's right. Yeah.
But yes, and then our church, they donated a portion, well, a good amount of money was one of the pastors so that we could get home
Wow.
because at the end of the whole ordeal, when they finally took the tube out of her and she was breathing on her own, and they put her in what they call a step down room, we wanted to figure our exit strategy. How are we getting out of here? And I looked at a medevac, and a medevac is about $33,000 to start.
I'm just
Yes.
seeing dollar signs, but real quick, Miss Sakina, can you tell me
Mhm.
about that moment when you were finally able to see your daughter and what that
Yes.
experience was like? I mean, you better than me. They held you up for 5 hours. I could only imagine how, what you were going through. You didn't know what kind of state she was in, to hear that she's on life support, to hear that she's not going to get the best treatment because she's not Mexican. I
Mhm.
could only imagine what that moment was like when you finally had an opportunity to lay eyes on your baby.
Yeah. My mom passed away at the age of 53.
Oh my God.
But the last time I saw her, she had tubes just everywhere. So when I walked into that room, and my mother and Divine, they were very close. When I walked into that room, I saw my mother laying in that bed all over again. And so that was hard. That was hard. But I stayed there, I stroked her arm. I was talking to her. I, cleaned her little face up. Now they did take care of her excellent in the ICU. They really,
Good,
really did.
good.
But still, you see your child there and it's like, oh my gosh.
Mm.
But 4 days later, when they were able to take that tube out of her, and again, I go there and I'm rubbing her arm and I'm like, Divine, mommy's here. And I could see like one eye popped open
She heard her
and
mama's
she
voice, and
look around.
so as soon as she heard your
Yes,
voice,
yes, yes.
girl.
But they hadn't told her that I was there, so she thought she was in Mexico City by herself.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I gotta let that moment breathe right there. And I know parents, if you've got a baby, don't matter if they are
Mhm.
5 or 50, that
You
is
hold
your
close.
child. And
Mm.
there's nothing like a mother's love. And honey, this mama was about to go to war for her baby, to have that opportunity to see her and say,
Mhm.
"It's gonna be okay." And what makes this moment even scarier is that you lost the love of your life just 6 years before that. You talked about the death of your mom, but then you lost your husband, and there was a series of things and of losses, but losing your husband just 6 years before that.
Mhm. Yeah. So I said, "Lord, we're bringing this one home." I was like, "That Job experience, I'm a little done with that."
Come
I'm
on,
like, "We're
right?
bringing this home."
Right,
Yes.
right,
Mhm.
calling him to be who he is and
Yeah.
to help you get out of it, and you did get out of that situation.
So I was glad that we didn't have to do the medevac, right?
Okay.
But again, my mother always said, "Your network is your network."
Mhm.
I called up my friend, her and her husband, they're both pilots. And I said, I don't know what to do. I said, because I know we probably may need a medevac. I said, yeah. So I said, I know that we need to figure out what we're going to do. Well, they gave me information about the medevac, but also about ICU flight nurses.
Mhm.
And those ICU flight nurses will go on a commercial flight with you. And that was the best thing since sliced bread. It went from 33,000 to 12,000. I was like, "Oh," I
Right.
mean, still it was a lot of
I
money,
know, but
but I was
right,
like,
yes.
but we can manage that. And when I called my church and I was like, "Hey, Pastor Phil, he's awesome." I said, "Hey, we I don't know what we're gonna do about this, but we need to make it happen." And he was like, "Don't worry about it. We're gonna make it happen." He's like, "But I need my money back."
I know, so
I was
by
like, "I
this
know,
time
I
you
know,
owed
I
your
know."
brother, your
Yes,
pastor.
yes,
Oh my word.
yes,
Wow,
yes.
wow. And so
Yeah.
so how did it happen? You were able to get a nurse, and she was able to be on a commercial flight, and then you had the
Yes.
nurse there, and so talk about that process. Was your daughter able to walk at that time, or
Okay,
how were
that's a great
things?
question. Yeah, that's a great question. So when we were trying to figure out how we can get her out of there, because mind you, she had not walked yet. They did not let her out of the bed yet. So when I said, "Well, is she going to be able to walk?" and even the lady who was coordinating it, she's like, "Well, can she walk? Does she need oxygen?" Well,
Mm.
yeah, she can walk, but she hadn't walked, so they really didn't know. And then when we talked about the oxygen piece, they wanted to charge me an additional $4,400 for oxygen to take on the plane. And I was like, okay, the devil's a liar because we don't have that. Like we
You
don't have
done
that. So we're gonna
shook
figure
me
that.
down by then and be like,
Yes.
"I'll do mouth to mouth. I don't have
Right?
nothing else."
I have nothing else to give. But I wish I could remember offhand, and I'll probably send it to you, the name of the flight company, but Chris was our flight nurse. He flew in the day before, took her vitals, checked on everything. He was like, "You don't have to worry about oxygen. I've already brought it. It's paid for. It's done. Don't worry about it." And then the next day, we were on a flight out of there. And when we hit that airport and we were on that plane, we were like, Jesus, just
Girl.
across the border, Jesus.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. What was your daughter's spirit like by then? I could only imagine she was extremely afraid, but how was she feeling by then? And was she able to speak with you about what happened? And, while
Mhm.
she was held up in that room, was she conscious? Like, just so many questions.
Yeah. She said to me, she was like, I just want to get out of here. And I think she was more afraid of saying anything more than that. But she was like, I just want to get out of here. But the thing was, she didn't have a voice. So everything she said was either through a text message or a whisper. Because, when you take that tube out, it's very raw, but she still, till this day, does not have her voice back. And so we're praying, we're praying that there were no vocal cords that were damaged with the trach tube going in. Yeah. But I will say this, the moment she saw me and I said to her, because she doesn't live in Kentucky, she lives in another state going to school.
Mhm.
The moment I said, I'm taking you back home, she said, I can go back to Kentucky? I'm like, what do you mean you can? Yes. She was a little loopy from the stuff.
But she
You
wanted to get
can,
out
yes.
of there.
Thank you. I'm like, you're coming to Kentucky until you're well. No questions about it.
Oh, I tell you, what a tale. How long have you all been back now, and how's your daughter doing today?
So we've been back about a week and a half now.
This is still
And
fresh.
this is still fresh. It's still fresh. Yeah.
Wow.
She's doing much better. She's definitely doing much better. We just want that voice to come back. She's been taking her medication so that because she has scarring on her lungs, as you can
Mhm,
imagine, right? Just
mhm.
trying to breathe. So, or she's taking that medication, and we're just praying that hopefully some of the scars can go away. We know probably all of them won't, but hopefully some of them can.
Well, this is where I put my spiritual hat on, and I believe in the power of prayer, and I believe in miracles, and I believe that
Mhm.
everything about that trip, God didn't leave you by yourself. He
No.
orchestrated and put people in that situation, and I believe that if everyone is coming together and praying over Divine's vocal box, vocal cords, and
Mhm.
praying that there is no permanent damage.
Amen.
What advice would you give to parents? What advice would you give to people, period, traveling to Mexico City or traveling out of the country to
Mhm.
kind of safeguard against, kind of running into the pitfalls that happened
Yeah.
in your situation?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I was very thankful for, we bought air tags, but the air tags never actually made it to my daughter. I don't even know where that air tag is right now.
Oh,
It never made it to my daughter.
gosh.
But I will say this, we use Life 360. Now,
Yes.
there, two sides of the fence on how you feel about the app, but I'm going to tell you, I knew where my child was.
Yes.
I knew where she was. I knew all the things about it. And so I appreciated that application. If your child is going somewhere, please get that Life 360 app because I had it on my son who was here and my daughter who was there. So this way I could keep tabs on both. But also, one of the things that the doctor mentioned to me, which I thought, my gosh, I would have never thought of this. He said, a lot of times when people go to these festivals or just Americans in a different country, check your luggage because people may put stuff on your luggage, in your luggage, to have you stop by customs. And I would have never thought about that. So, what we did with my daughter's luggage, we emptied out everything. I went through everything and we had to buy her new luggage so that we could make sure we would be okay going through customs. Isn't that crazy? But he says he sees it all the time.
And what is the purpose of that? Why do people put things on people's just to get them tripped up? Just really?
I have
Gosh.
no idea.
And another expense. Oh my goodness. Next, this is where you come in. I'm talking to you, the community. This mama has been through hell and been to hell and back. But we're grateful that Divine is home and she's alive and she's doing well and she's thriving and that you're well. I mean, y'all see how calm she is. I can't believe it. This was less than 2 weeks ago. But the bill, there's still an outstanding amount that you owe to people who sold into this situation. Talk about how people can help donate to you and your family during this time.
Yeah, so we have a give a hand donation. I think we'll have the link somewhere on here. But that give a hand donation platform has been a godsend to us. It helped us with a portion of what we had to shell out. But again, like I said, we've had my brother and we were able to pay back my pastor, but we still are working on my brother. So if you are led to do so, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it.
So, if anything, Miss Sakinah has spoken today, touched your heart, a woman that has given so much. She just launched a business, you all. And so things couldn't come at the worst time. If anything she said impressed upon your heart, we're asking that you dig deep and help this family out. Yeah. So, again, if there is anything you all out there can do to help this family, Radcliffe, like I said, is a very tight knit community. But come on, Louisville, come on, wherever you are watching this broadcast from. I tell you what, we appreciate you taking the time to share this story, though, because it definitely will make us think more about investing in travelers insurance and learning the laws of the land to wherever we may be traveling. What are some ways, other ways, I guess, supporting your new business? And what are some other ways that people can invest and support you?
Oh my goodness. Well, we Clean Good Eats is our baby, right? So just please come on in. We'd love to serve you at Clean Good Eats, whether it's coming into our tea bar, whether it's coming in for a wellness session, cooking class. We do adult classes, couples classes, kids classes, or even just coming for a fine dining experience with, you and some friends. We absolutely love all of that.
Ooh. Listen,
Absolutely.
uh, Miss Sakina, after everything that you have been through, what has this taught you? What have you learned in this experience?
I learned two things. Always keep that passport ready.
Yes, yes.
Always keep the passport ready. But the main thing is always rely on God.
Oof.
I don't care what the situation looks like. On the other side of that situation and all through that situation, God has your back.
Yeah,
Just rely.
absolutely. I tell you what. And he is free of charge. Miss Sakina, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. And I know this has been an incredibly stressful experience for your family. And we just want to let you know that we are keeping you all lifted up. We are going to donate. We're going to support because we are all in this together. Candid Land, thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, if this story moved you, I want to ask you to share it. Do me a favor, share this broadcast because moments like this remind us just how quickly life can change. Thank you so much for pulling up to this conversation. Until next time, keep it honest, keep it healing, but most of all, keep it candid. Bye.